Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 24th day of the New Earth Summit, now in its third year, India's first integrative summit on solutions to our problems in health, food, farming, and environment. I'm Daryl D'Souza, convener of the New Earth Summit, your host for this evening, and I extend a warm welcome to our esteemed panelists and to our audience, also on behalf of our 10 Earthkeeper groups in India and overseas. And we express our gratitude to you for taking out time from your busy schedules to be with us this evening and to share your insights and experience so that all watching this live webinar and its recording later may benefit from the holistic science and wisdom being presented on this platform that will help us all co-create a beautiful world that we want to live in. So our topic for today is protecting our oceans, coasts, and marine life. So I will start with introducing our panel to the audience. Manisha Rao has a bachelor's in zoology and biochemistry and a master's in tropical biodiversity and ecosystem. She is a marine conservationist, originally from Bangalore, but has been in Goa intermittently, first to intern with World Wildlife Foundation, then to work with wild otters in Stankli, and since 2015, she is permanently in Goa working with Reef Watch Marine Conservation. When Reef Watch decided to partner with Terra Conscious, Drishti, and the Goa Forest Department to set up a veterinary network, she eagerly jumped in to get involved. With the number of stranded animals that are reported every year, primarily by lifeguards, setting up a veterinary component for the network seemed to be the next logical step. Manisha's mother is a veterinarian and she grew up taking care of animals. So this project seemed the ideal fit for her since it lies at the intersection of wildlife conservation and animal welfare. Our second panelist, Divya Sharma, is a brand and culture consultant at Drishti Marine, which works in emergency first response and unique tourism experiences across Goa and Maharashtra. She is also the director of Sea Forts Foundation by Drishti, a built environment and community heritage trust for the Konkan coast. Drishti holds the contract for life saving on Goa's coast since 2008. Drishti Lifesavers have recorded 5,800 plus rescues and an audited record of 99% reduction in drowning deaths for the state. For 3 years, the company also had government mandate contract for keeping Goa's beaches clean, creating a flawless record of 2,000 tons of garbage collected and correctly disposed with 387 plus beach stacks trained in segregation and waste management. Seaforts Foundation holds the Monument Mitra MOUs for heritage sites across the Konkan coast like Bekal in Kerala and Aguada Fort in Goa, and also leads the Drishti life-saving marine stranding network that has been operating for 4 years with Terra Conscious and Goa Forest Department. Our third panelist, Dr. Kalpana Chaudhari, has a PhD from ICAR, that is Indian Council of Agricultural Research, affiliated with the Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute in Kochi, followed by her work experience in a prawn farm run by Hindustan Lever Limited. She also worked as a lecturer in the Fisheries College at Verawar. Due to family responsibilities, she turned to her second love, which is computers, training and developing techniques to simplify office practices. During the COVID-19 period, she put in a concerted effort to create awareness of automation of office using Microsoft Excel to over 500 people and also using it as a great tool for MIS and reporting. a technique that is now being dispersed. Projects for the same are taken up with several ICAR and other institutes. Conservation of nature is the requirement of the day, and due to her fisheries background, Kalpana has a keen interest in the mangroves and in the fisheries section. So for the first hour of this webinar, I have a few questions for our panelists, which will be followed by question and answers with the audience at 7 p.m. Though the audience can type in their questions in the Q&A box even before that time. Now, if you would like to receive the recorded video of this webinar, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The New Earth Summit. Now for our questions to the panelists. And if we can first start with the sources of contamination to our oceans, then let's move to things about things that are damaging our coasts, and then finally the destruction of marine life, so as to build up an understanding for our audiences. So my first question, open to any of the panelists who want to take it up first. What are the various sources of contamination that come into our ocean? Divya, would you like to take it up first?
Yes, sure. I can tell you from the experience of what we saw on the beach, from the beach cleaning experiences that we all had. Marine pollution, and I'm not talking about the larger industrial one. I'm sure Manisha will be able to speak of that, and Kalpana. What we have seen is that the first source of contamination is the kind of plastics and microplastics that are coming into the ocean, and it is staggering to see the amount, even on a coastline 103 kilometers, that is just Goa, the amount of plastic that washes ashore. And when you're walking, because we were cleaning the beach, there were many times when one walked along in the morning before the cleaning was done, and rubber slippers to branded packaging, bottles of water. If coastal would just ban bottles of water, those are the kinds. So that's the household, I would call the household plastics that do find their ways into the ocean. There's no doubt that even if we are all now getting better at segregating, there is a lot of household plastics that are in the waters. So that's one. I would say it's a big one. It's just garbage, pure garbage that's in the waters. There is a lot of ghost nets. So when these boats are going out into the coastlines, once they can't use a certain kind of net, they cut it off and they let it go free in the waters. These are called ghost nets because they're literally floating in the waters completely free, and they have no use to anybody. They don't want to bring them back. So that is one big other, and that's the kind of, what we see are stranded marine animals are getting stuck in those nets because turtles and dolphins and everything. So that's another very big thing. What happens also with these ghost nets is a lot of garbage gets attached to it as well. So it kind of creates these big floating islands of garbage. So, I mean, those are the two main things one has seen. There is, of course, industrial waste and even household sewage waste in a lot of ways is going in. I know that in Bombay, all the creeks and the, they're all contaminated and they're all being flushed into the sea. So that is also, that's also there. The last one that I would input with is oil. That is, we've seen them in Goa. We get tar balls that wash up on the shores. And these are all from the off coast big marine liners and the rigs and everything. So there is a lot of oil in the ocean as well. The spillage that just happened in Sri Lanka, which was absolutely appalling, has created such devastation of marine life, both plant-based and animal. And I mean, this time in Goa, we saw a huge surge of tar balls and oil. And I would say that was all the currents bringing in that Sri Lankan waste as well. So there's a lot of that too. There's a lot of very dirty oil that's also spilling in the waters. So that would be my first, that's my input for it.
Yeah, thank you, Divya. Through this New Earth Summit, the kind of models that we are building up for the future is, definitely something in the right direction, because we're trying to create eco cities, eco villages, and eco states that have a very low need for vehicles, and so proportionately the less amount of petrol and fuel and oil that gets used, because we've come to a point on this planet where we are being forced to develop. Of course it's a good thing, but when you do not have enough of oil supply in the ground anymore, you have to develop alternate models of living, and amazing uh, you know community structure that we've designed, where in just 15 minutes walk or 20 minutes walk, you will get your complete education, your food, your recreation, and your workplace, all of that. So hopefully with those models, there are lesser amount of liners, going up and down on the sea for this oil spillage. And as I was just preparing, setting up for this, that what you said about the amount of plastic and plastic bottles, that was on my mind. And of course, it's been on everybody's mind for so long. And I just imagine the mall not having any plastic bottles for water, but having, these, like in Goa, I was also part of the carry your own bottle campaign, you know, if we just have these and the bottle is priced at, 400 bucks, right? Because you get some, water now that's priced at 100 bucks a bottle for a liter. So I guess people will think that, okay, if I don't have a bottle, I might as well pick one today. And, then I should keep using it. And if I ever forget it, then maybe I can take another bottle and give a friend at home. Maybe some, hard, things like that may help. So Manisha, what else would you like to add to, what comes into the ocean and from where?
Okay, so if I'm speaking strictly from what we've seen through the project, this project has actually been active only the last 6 months, 7 months now. And it's primarily ghost nets that are the issue. So we've had a lot of turtles that are tangled up in ghost nets. A lot of them, are swept ashore. They're not able to swim, like what Divya said, where the ghost nets kind of capture all of the plastic and make like a floating island. Similarly, they also kind of latch onto turtles. And we've seen a number of cases where they're completely tangled up. Also, we also perform necropsies for dead stranded animals. So whenever there are turtles, dolphins, finless porpoises that get washed ashore, we do a necropsy, and if it's too decayed, we at least try to do a gut check. So we check what's in the gut, because what we found was inside the dolphin's stomach, we would find a huge, substantial amount actually of ghost nets. And which is why we kind of changed up our protocol to say that, okay, even if the carcass is a little too decomposed to really do a proper necropsy, we'll at least check the stomach, because the net won't decompose. And we've already found about 6 or 7 nets in the stomach of dolphins. So those are the two main plastic sources that I see that directly impact animals. We've also had one case where we were treating a tiny hawksbill turtle, and we found a really small, like, ball of thermocol that came out in the feces. So, I mean, to that level, you find plastics present everywhere. The fact that it's this small thing that's, present in the digestive system of a hawksbill that's literally this size was startling. So yeah, those are the main sources of pollution that we see that impact animals on a day-to-day basis. But also, like Divya said, primarily it's, your plastic bottles, it's packaging, your Lay's packets, wrappers, pan packets, all of that, which we see while, when we go to the beach and we're tending to different cases. Those we haven't seen impact the animals directly, but I'm sure that, on a microplastics level, which we need to do some studies on that, there must be a good amount of, like, a contamination. So yeah.
So yes, a point coming up from, since both of you have mentioned, about nets. So the point coming up that some kind of education, some kind of awareness for the fishermen themselves, or maybe some kind of incentive, like now people are, children are getting money, just collecting all the plastics and depositing them somewhere. I guess some incentive monetary scheme needs to be done, for the fisheries department, where they can turn in their nets. And I'm sure that plastic and all can be used for something, whether it can be converted into, the down cycle or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good point that's coming up.
Yeah,
Kalpana?
I think, sorry, if I may just add to that.
Yes.
We were doing some research in Karnataka to figure out what they're doing with the nets if they dispose of them. So the fishers themselves actually have a very good process in terms of keeping the net for as long as they can. So there are parts of it that are cut off, and then this extra net that they don't quite want, whatever's fixable, they get it fixed, locally. So they actually have a pretty good system. I'm not sure if that's replicated in Goa, but we can't. The thing with these ghost nets is they can literally come from anywhere. So it's not necessarily a reflection of local fishing practices. It can be coming from further away as well. And it's important to kind of figure out where that's coming from as well before we, start these initiatives.
Right, and I guess the education needs to be all throughout this country, because Goa being a tourist place, it seems that all our tourists who are coming in, they just pick, eat and throw, and so much of that
Yeah.
garbage is coming. So we've got a disproportionately high amount of garbage. I think any tourist place will have that.
Yeah, and that is something like startling actually that I've seen. I mean, I haven't, I'm not from Goa, but I've lived here long enough. But I've seen so many tourists just littering, literally throwing stuff out of their cars while driving, and they're all like these, yellow number plates. So there's definitely something that needs to be done about that.
Yeah, so one part is of a lot of the packaged food products and the packagings, that education obviously has to be, every Indian needs to have that. And for all the coastal zones in India, at least, the education about getting in your fishing nets and getting some money for it, perhaps that is something that can be done. Kalpana, would you like to share any more sources that you think are contaminating the ocean? Your mic needs to be unmuted.
Yeah, sorry.
Thanks.
Yeah, hi, Daryl. What I feel is what she said, ghost nets, yeah, they are important, but ghost nets is not necessarily the fishermen throwing away the nets. It's a breakage from the net when they are fishing. So when they go in fishing, they are not actually doing it on purpose, or it's like you are discarding something. No, that may not be the actual cause, though that could be a part of the cause. The cause is when the fishing is actually taking place, a part of the net is broken away from the
Get stuck in the
original net,
propeller or something.
something like that, or gets broken away from the original net itself, and then it floats in the sea, and then causes all the damage that she mentioned. So
Yes.
it's basically that we need to put a system in place where you check the net before you lower it. Check for they do check.
They
They
would
do
be doing
check.
that. Hmm.
Yeah, but
They wouldn't want to lose fish to bad nets,
exactly.
I
But
guess.
when the buried portion of the fish net is there, no, there's
Yeah.
not a real check on that. That is the portion which has the greatest wear and tear. So that requires a little look into. And
Okay.
microplastic is another major. At present, we are not feeling it because not much work is done on that. But microplastic is a very, very damaging thing, which in future is going to cause much more damage than what we are imagining it to do it now.
Yes, yes, that's right. And on the summit already we have spoken before, but I feel the need to, repeat it again, that these cities, the metro cities and the smart cities that have been created all across the world with a very high population density, and where all of the sewage is being, going into the entire sewage draining system, and then it's going into the sea. And literally when you can go by flight above Goa or so many coastal places, you can see instead of blue water, you can see brown water for like 3-4 kilometers into the sea. So obviously all the sea life also, corals and whatever is there at the coast, it's all dying in the kind of uh, the water is getting polluted. So that is why we have been on the summit talking about slow migration from these crowded cities, and that's especially the sewage system. And we have been talking about recycling gray water, black water, which that has already been presented in a closed loop that does not even go down to your water aquifer to pollute your well water. So I hope people are getting this understanding of what the multiple damages that have happened with these concentrated cities. And of course, now by default, they can't breathe the air in Delhi and it's too much of congestion and pollution. So, the other way too, people are coming to more natural places like
Right.
Goa.
Right.
And the only thing is we should not make the same kind of city models by having concrete jungles happen here again. So,
One more thing, if I may add, Daryl, and as we are aware that we are getting tourists, we should also be aware that we are also supplying the tourists with these non-biodegradable products. We are
yeah.
selling them products which can be thrown, like your plastic water bottles, like this. So, like you said, the bottles should be, the available bottles should be only metal or glass. Don't make any plastic bottle available. Packaging should not be in plastic. If Goa itself starts doing that, then they don't have an option of throwing it.
Yes.
We are seeing it happening, and like the other panelists said, all of us are aware of this, but none of us are taking any action on that. We keep observing things without doing anything about it.
So, though yeah, individual organizations maybe they are too small to affect the entire state and its policy. So, we will come later into the discussion of talking of a committee, where all the organizations can represent themselves and taking up bigger policies at the state level. For example, campaign for Goa regarding as a marine tourist destination, and also we were talking of a wellness destination in our integrated medicine section model of the summit. So it looks like, yes, some things need to happen at the state level. You got to give it an image, and something to work towards. And that I think may work in, bringing down the amount of packaged foods and garbage that's there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, one last point I would like to add is all of this sewage that's coming and going to the ocean and being denser, settling at the lower levels, which is killing the marine plankton. And and that 70% of the oxygen on this planet comes from marine plankton and not from the Amazon and all of that. So we are, with the city models and anywhere, even in the village and all, the moment you start channeling water, especially the, gray water and black water through your piping system, and you dump it in the ocean, that this is, what the public needs to know. And we will come later to actions of more awareness that a committee can create or that organizations like, Drishti and Reef Watch have already been doing. We'll come to that. So my next question is about what are the different kinds of damages that are happening to the coastline, and maybe we can talk about what's the alternative. One thing we know, of course, that there is an encroachment of builders. They come down to
Continental shelf.
even beyond the high tide line. Of course, all Goans who have been settling over there and have had their houses there for much earlier time, they argue with the panchayats that they cannot move. But this is a known problem that encroachment of new constructions, whether it's some big hotels like the Leela and all of that, or smaller, that problem is known. So yes, maybe some interface with the builder, consortium and all would be the action, or if any other ideas that you have. But yeah, let's talk about any other further kind of damage to the coastline.
The mangroves are the main affected Daryl in this. And if you see, Goa is having around 12 species of the 59 species available in the world. in the mangroves, and they are a protective system for our coastline. You know, they help us against the huge currents, the tsunamis, everything. And if this is going to get damaged, then our state is vulnerable to the oceans, the fury of the ocean. The nature could just ruin our life. So I think we should start thinking and giving nature a choice of protecting us. It's ready to protect us. It's only that we need to give it a choice and say, allow the mangroves to grow. Your fish catch is decreasing. It's not getting grounds to breed,
Breed in the
grow,
mangrove.
yeah, breed in the mangroves. So we have a major problem there also. You're even the
So,
previous.
Kalpana, are you saying the mangroves are getting lower in size because they are reclaiming that mangroves and using it for construction? What is the reason
Yes,
mangrove
yes,
space is getting
yes,
less?
yes, yes. There is a reclamation for construction. Yes.
No. Yes,
I
please
think
continue.
Kalpana is absolutely spot on with the problem. I have in my own short lifespan of having lived in Goa seen the Nerul mangrove being destroyed in front of our eyes. For example, after you cross the Nerul bridge, there is now a road that they've made, which they've made after the mangrove line, and that now is a kacha road that's turned into a road that's connecting Nerul bridge to Sinkeri, which is a connection that is not required because there are many roads getting there. And today, with the way that, and that once that happens, you have started to destroy the mangrove, that whole forest is gone. And like this, there are so many other examples of mangroves being destroyed, and that really it's the biggest crime to ecology today. And in a coastal vulnerable place like Goa, it is absolutely something that needs to be looked at with grave seriousness. Because the thing that I was going to add to the biggest destruction out on the coastline, which is caused by this as well, is the erosion of beaches. Goa is seeing an unprecedented erosion of beaches, and in the next 5 to 10 years, there will be certain beach stretches that will not exist anymore. Because we have the lifeguarding network across, we are seeing that where we had put towers 12 years ago, they're permanent, like they're towers that have been structured, like a stilt built way behind the line, the tide line, way behind the tree line. And today in monsoons, there are some that actually have fallen over because the sea has come in. From south to north, there are many beaches where the erosion of sand is unprecedented. And really, there is nothing being done to even, and mankind's biggest folly is to think that you can build a sort of, wall to stop ocean from coming in. That's really a folly of arrogance of man, that they think that they can do that. That's not going to happen. Instead of actually, doing something ecologically that will be like what Kalpana is saying, is the mangroves are what is saving you. They think they can build a wall. So that's one really big problem in Goa, the coastal belt.
And one more thing I would like to add is the killing of biodiversity that this is bringing in.
Yes, that's so right. And Divya, if you want to share, so of course one part is the mitigation of the water and the force that it comes in through the mangroves. But if you would just like to share with the audience, what is the reason that either the seawater is getting more, or why is it coming more in?
Mangroves are not able or not available to stop it from coming in, na?
Okay, so that's one part. And if you have like the all the beaches,
That's
right?
the main part. You see, the mangroves line has protected Goa all across the coast. If you
Yes.
go actually in the south of Goa, most of the shacks have been built behind the tree line. Actually, so some of those, in Patnam and all these places, it's still very well preserved because they've kept the shacks behind it. So you can, when you're standing in the water, I can actually see the tree line. If you go from Sinkeri to Baga and you go to now even Ashwe, you don't even know where the tree line is anymore. And shacks come up in front of the tree line. They start throwing garbage into it. And by tree line, we mean these are those cashew, mangrove, thing off the coast. What happens is that these roots are very good at holding on to the sand is being protected by that. So what I'm saying about the erosion, it's all one big chain reaction, right? So what Kalpana said about the mangroves is actually where you can start at the root cause of how to protect it. And if you
Yes.
start destroying those with overdevelopment, you've seen in Baga and Kalangut and these areas where,
Yes.
I mean, wells have dried up because if you speak to anyone there today, every single well in Kalangut is dry. They are bringing in water now in tankers from Nerul, which is next place that's going to go dry. Because especially during the tourist period, where there was one, let's say 1 or 2 guest houses taking from, let's say 2 wells, today there are 7. They're all being given licenses to open.
Yes.
And these are all mangrove fed, and these are all river fed, wells, and they get replenished. They're no longer getting replenished. They're all going dry. And so now this tanker system that's happening around, I mean, it's
Yes.
really scary. And that's all connected to it all ends up at the beach. It all ends up affecting the beach, affecting the marine life and all of that. So it's all connected, and it starts with the mangroves.
Yes, yes. And last year we had gone a bit detail into this topic where now when you have a lot of tourists coming, like you rightly said, there's so much of water consumption, right? And it's going to sewer system, and so much of it is going into the sea and not back into the land. So you have a depletion of the land water table that's happening. And at the space where the mangrove is and where the interface of the sea and the land is, when you have the land water go down, then you have the mangrove water come in, and that's why you have salt water now coming into the fields.
Yeah.
And people not being able to grow things that they could on fresh water. So that's so we have been constantly talking about and showing the importance of rainwater harvesting in your plot, catching amount of rain and bringing up that water table. Because if we don't do this, then it's an ecological disaster. We will see that lesser and lesser farmland that is close to the coast is going to be able to cultivate,
And
and
also once their lands turn saline, they go and start selling them because they
Right.
they can't use it. So it really creates the chain reaction that's very fast, very, very quick kind of effects.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And so also, that point of what I was asking about, more seawater happening, which is, of course, we have known that in Kalangut, Kandolim, Shinkeri, that whole line, right? Uh, it has been the sea and the sand, and there haven't been mangroves in between. But yes, in general, for our public to understand that the amount of seawater is also increasing because of the amount of glaciers that are melting, and all that water getting into the sea. So the sea line is rising all across the world, and that is because of all the so much of heat that we create in our cities by again this concrete jungle mode of living, where you use so many machines and air conditioning and so much of transport and vehicles. So we have to understand that we are participating in all of this, and we have to understand where are the steps we need to take back uh, and retract. So now I'll come to the third question about the damage to marine life. Are there some points that you all would like to make with directly impacts the amount of marine life that's going down in the state and so many of the species going extinct?
Yeah, I think especially during the monsoons, in any case, there are a lot of turtles that are either injured, they have previous injuries from nets. We've encountered a lot of turtles that actually have, flippers amputated. Turtle which had 2 flippers on the same side that were amputated. So obviously animals that are sick or injured will more likely, come ashore whenever there's rough weather. And considering that the weather patterns have been particularly harsh in the last couple of years, and in any case, the onset of the monsoon is a turbulent time, it just means that more and more animals are coming up, which is really unfortunate because a healthy animal shouldn't be getting stranded at all. They have the wherewithal, they have everything they need to be able to stay where they need to stay. So that's one, I mean, it's one of the bigger issues we see primarily when it comes to marine megafauna is the number of turtles that are being washed ashore. The issue with dolphins and larger cetaceans is it's really hard to figure out what the problem is. So in some cases, that when we do a necropsy, it's easy to see that, okay, there's a net in the stomach, or it's starving. There's absolutely nothing left in the stomach. So that could be a potential reason for the death of the animal. But the thing is, even if there is net in the stomach, these animals are very resilient. So it could be that they've died of something else, but they also have net in the stomach. It's not necessarily, cause and effect, but it does give an insight into how anthropogenic factors are affecting them on a day-to-day basis. Because if the stomach is, filled up with net, that they die of impaction as well as starvation. So they're not able to ingest any more food. And another thing, point that I actually wanted to bring up was a lot of the turtles that we were treating. While we were treating them, we were also taking swab samples and getting them tested at a lab close by. And we saw that so many of them are resistant to antibiotics. And we kept changing up the antibiotics to see, maybe this will work, maybe that will work. And the fact that they're already resistant to antibiotics is quite a sinister indication of what is present in our oceans. Is it in the fish that they eat? Is it is it runoff from fish farms that are close by? We don't know where. Is it dumping of medical waste or something that's causing this antibiotic resistance? And it's definitely something that needs to be looked into, because I'm sure it'll be affecting the fish as well, and that's something we consume. So, as just somebody who's, even if you're not concerned about the environment, if you're concerned about your own health, it's a very pertinent point to kind of see what is happening and what causes these side effects.
I would just like to mention there, before you go on to the next point, that we had on our food section, we were talking about all the commercial, chicken, meat, and everything that's produced. The animals are kept in such sickly conditions that in cages and with a lot of stress and all of that, and they're given food that's not their natural food. A byproduct, or a carcass of another industry is made into powder and given food. That's how to the cows. That's how the mad cow disease started. So these animals are so sickly that they feed them antibiotics, twice a week in their food.
Yeah.
So you literally have anything, even if somebody's cutting a chicken and they have a useful part, but what is thrown, if it's going into the garbage and somehow finding its way out, it is antibiotics. So there are antibiotics in our entire food supply chain system. And now we are seeing, yes, this food supply, of course, it's finding its way into the river and into the sea. So there you have the root of how on a daily basis your sea water is now having these antibiotics, and the fish are getting their feed of it, every day, and they have become antibiotic resistant.
Yeah, and that's the thing when it comes to turtles. They're very resilient animals, but when they come ashore, their chances of survival are that much lower. And the best way to go forward is to give immediate veterinary intervention. But if that is not working, then what do? Then is the animal just going to suffer? How are you going to go ahead with this? So even with the network that we have in place, if this carries on and it continues to and it impacts them more and more, and there's a cumulative kind of interaction, then how are we going to help these animals at all in the future? And that is a little bit of a scary prospect to look at, but it's definitely one of the areas that needs attention.
Yes, thank you, Manisha. Divya, do you want to add anything to that? Any other causes for marine life, going down, getting destroyed?
Actually, yes, it's one of my things that I've been going on about ever since I saw it in person. One is overfishing. We know that's a big problem.
Yes.
But the other is that if you go out on the coastline, I sailed from Goa to Lakshadweep earlier this year, and I was absolutely, it was like going for a horror show near the coast. where you have LED fishing farms. They are blasting LED lights like towers of, it looks like a mall. They're that big. They confuse the marine life with LED lights and are fishing with that. It's actually illegal, but there is who's going to check in those parts.
Is this at night?
Yes, yes,
And
you'll find
do they put the lights in the water, or it's just on top?
both. There are some where they put lights in the water to attract fish. And the rest of them are shining them from, and they're like towers. They're like multi-story towers. And I was shocked with the one outside. It's off the coast of Goa, Mangalore, this whole fishing belt. But I was told that in places like Hong Kong and stuff, it's 10 times worse. So which was quite depressing. In fact, I saw this during the lockdown. On Baga Beach, we had a marine stranding of a whale shark in the pandemic in 2020. And this whale shark was definitely live when it got stranded on Baga Beach. It was extremely distressing to see that beautiful creature. There's no way it would have come here. And it was an absolute fresh carcass. So it had definitely found its way by mistake across this. I can only blame the LED lights. I mean, I'm not an expert, but we have seen that kind of an incident in Goa where a whale shark, a very, has got washed up. So these LED and overfishing and that whole unregulated thing, I would say, is very, very damaging to marine life, because that's just human consumption patterns. That's, one is to say that yes, there is a climate issue, which there is, but this is really something that is all about the way we're allowing these kind of practices without any checks.
Yes, and this point about overfishing, of course, it has to be taken up with the fisheries, department. It is a source of livelihood, but I don't know how whether you all are aware or whether it exists that there are any, programs at the state level where they are in collaboration with the fishermen or without them. Is there any way of seeding, breeding more of the fish to sustain this? Because if you don't do that, then I mean, I can see every year by year, the kinds of fishes and the quantity, of course, going down. I was an avid fisherman, right from the age of 12, and I used to go and my first practice session was at the Nerul Creek itself, because literally I could see the fish and I could put something in front of them and they would, come and bite it. So that was the first lesson my father gave me then. And I've been fishing all across the shore, right from, Sinkeri up till Tirakal. But in 2010, when after I became a vegetarian, and 2013 I became a vegan. Since that time, my fishing gear has got rust and I don't use it anymore. So yeah, definitely something that is at this level where some kind of advice or some kind of joint effort has to happen. It can happen uh, from a committee, a bigger committee on this side of the fence that's looking at marine biodiversity and the more scientific aspects of along with the fish and that entire ecosystem. What else of the water gets conserved at the living ecosystem, and somehow at this level we have to help them understand that these are living ecosystems, and when you kill a part and then the whole ecosystem starts breaking down. So maybe that will happen at the committee level. um, Kalpana, anything more from your side to add about the dwindling marine life causes?
Daryl, if we tend to understand the food chain, everything starts with the plants. Okay, so if you see in the marine life also, the phytoplanktons at the top of the sea are the main food providers for the next in the chain. You're like Divya and Manisha were mentioning about the oil spills, the coal balls, the tar balls that come to the beach. They're all going to stop the oxygen getting into the water. They're ultimately going to kill your plankton. If they kill the plankton, everything else is going to just take time to happen. So what we really need to do is look after the plankton from where the actual seeding of life starts. It's like plants on land. If we don't have a plant, we all realize today that forest maintenance of the forest or increasing the forest area is going to bring about a lot for us. But we still yet to realize that if we increase the phytoplankton content in the water, there's going to be a lot more fishes living for us. That is one thing. Another thing is we are seeing blooms more often. Even a few months back, I think the whole of the Konkan coast saw the algal blooms. So we have to be more conscious about the rain-offs that happen from the industries, from the homes, and from the vessels which are causing the planktons to die, and ultimately our marine life is getting affected.
So thank you, Kalpana. And now we'll finally move to, how we can all collaborate together with people, the masses, who are supposed to be the biggest participants in implementing the solutions, because, without knowing or half knowing, they have participated in creating the problem. So obviously, all our dedicated few organizations are doing their best, but that is not enough to mitigate, the damage and to save things at the rate that we would like to see, things being saved. So the idea of, like in previous webinars also, the idea of uh, an oceans, coast, and marine life committee of Goa. And this kind of committees, of course, can happen for each state that is, got the coastline to it. And the idea is how can, maybe one or two people from each of these organizations be in this committee while they still belong to the organizations and, they do their individual work. But how can they represent and come on a common platform and table maybe once in 15 days? And so let's talk about that. Um, uh, Imagine that you are in this committee that of course you have got your core work that you are dedicated to, but there are many other aspects of the entire ecosystem that are being addressed by others, and you would like to collaborate with them and have a regular meeting and put up state for your own state. There is always a pyramid, right? There are root causes, and then there are problems, and then there are symptoms. So when all of you who have been working with the system, that step, and making a stage-wise solution. So what what are the type of people who should be in this committee? Oceans, protecting our oceans, coast, and marine life. Uh, Divya, would you like to share? I'm taking notes, so I'm just going to put down. I have been taking some notes already.
I would, I mean, apart from many, I'm now starting to think about this. I think always a good idea to have, but we need people who are really actively moving things on ground. Like I would say somebody from the panchayat, especially in Goa, because so much of Goa is still under panchayat. And I know that I've seen the difference between certain panchayats who are very, very helpful in terms of making sure that there are certain policies passed within their local system. I think local systems are very important, and local systems can make a lot of difference. So, I mean, for very clear example, you meet the Kalangut Panchayat and you meet the Kandoli Panchayat, it's entirely different. And you look at the result on the beach as well. When you go to Sinkeri and Kandoli, it's very different from when you're going to Baga and Kalangut. So I mean, I've seen that visibly as a big difference on both sides. So I mean, it's not as simplistic. I know that there are nuances to it, but I think that for me in Goa, I think panchayats are very crucial, who can really at a local level, because they are dealing with, for example, what we're talking about, these plastic bottles. They're dealing with vendors. They're giving vendor contracts. They're giving permissions and NOCs on a local level. So, and they're not all bad. Some of them are actually, they're very, they're really thinking about their local community. And I think for me, that would be a very, very important kind of, inclusion in this kind of a panel.
Yes, yes, I've noted that point down. Very important because yes, perhaps this committee has to, provide them with some kind of, in the campaign for some kind of education for the people, because people have to understand what they are doing in their homes, how it, lands in the ocean. Um,
Yeah,
so
in fact, I had,
mitigating the damage. Yes.
no, sorry. I was just saying that you're absolutely right. There is a concept called citizen science, and there are citizen science projects across the world. And the idea of citizen science is this very thing: when people are aware of their environment, they will make better choices. And so much of science is held in the hands of scholars and people, and we don't get to it. Only
Right.
people who can afford those research docs get to it, and it ends up becoming another market. So today you have a whole world of organic food and a whole world of sulfate free shampoo that I can't afford. But the point is that uh, science needs to be given to people. They need to know this science that we're talking about of mangroves and oceans. I mean,
Yes,
the
yes.
moment that you know this, you yourself will hopefully make a better choice.
Right. That's so true. And, perhaps through some leaflets of the best is movies. We spoke about this also in all of the committees, and it seemed like it's a very good idea to make, two, three very strong and very clear movies where it's good to watch, but the science is very deep in it through interaction and people and actual, images of, the place that we are in will really impact the people because they recognize all those spots. And to push, so I know that many organizations individually, you're making, videos and awareness is going on. But yeah, when I hope that, this committee forms in a much bigger way than the network of each video that is, very well made, that can really go out to the masses. So yes, Manisha, what would you like to say about this committee? Who should be in it? And then we will take up little points further. What can the committee do? So one is yes, people from the panchayat.
I agree with Divya's point of, the panchayat representative being a part of the committee, but also more local stakeholders. So people who are involved in fishing, because ultimately, whenever it comes to policy, those are the people who are going to be affected. And it's important to have their input before kind of doing some kind of top-down approach.
Right.
And
So some head of fisheries.
yes. Yes, maybe on a more local level, not on a governmental level at all. I mean, like maybe a union, a representative or something.
Yes, yes, correct. Okay. Yes, Kalpana, any other type of people that would help, this work in the committee?
Daryl, as they both said, panchayats and the union is important, but the panchayat itself requires a lot of support to enlighten the people about it. So if they are going to tell the vendor that this is not what you're going to do, or if they are going to tell the fisherman this is not, there has to be a proper path in which the guidance is given. So you require people at the ground level or NGOs who can actually put forward like a street walk or going around, giving them a demo of how it would help changing the things, how they could cause an improvement. And like we are talking about mangroves and all these things, like Divya said, the citizen science thing is a very common thing. And citizen science not only gives projects, they also allow people to take pics and send you as it's happening. They can send the pics, and it's immediately uploaded to the website, and then they are able to take at least some action. If nothing else, they come to know that something like this is happening. So citizen science is very important, and if the government makes this a very active thing, In fact, each and every place that is taking this thing will get snaps. And Goa people are very mobile. They have a mobile, they click photographs all the time. So it would be very, very easy for the Goan people to know where the changes are taking place if citizen science is active in Goa. Divya is very right in saying citizen science is very important, and I think Goa's problem could get solved very easily if that comes into the fore.
Yes, thank you, Kalpana, for that. Yeah, very nice idea. That's also I've taken down. And anything more to add, Divya, Manisha?
I would say also somebody who represent the youth, a sort of someone who can engage the youth.
Yes.
When you start there, with awareness building and activities and getting people involved. So it has to be someone who's younger, who can kind of relate to kids of all age groups.
Right.
That would go a long way, I think, in the long term.
Yes, so definitely some representation from schools or even citizens committees, because if we have some key people in the committee that have a very big outreach, you know, uh, some organizations, of course, there are. I'm part of a Lions Club also, but they have got certain fixed things that they do, and so far Marine is not in it, but maybe some organizations like that who have some commitment and good network. So education, yeah, is definitely, because yeah, we have to bring all this information to the youngsters and put it in their curriculum so that they know that this is also a part of life, and especially in the state like Goa, right, where you are interacting with the beach at least twice a week. So noted that point.
And young people are so vocal here. It's amazing. I mean, the Mole campaign, if you look at Save Mole, it was
Yes.
completely a youth-led campaign, which was amazing to watch them constructively spend their time outside school and college. And I think that kind of energy can be harnessed. It's a matter of bringing everyone together, really, for a focused thing.
Yes, that's right. Yesterday when we were on, dry garbage, Feli Gomes was also there with us as one of the panelists, and I was part of his program. I'm on the board of Live Happy, Asagaon, and some years back, yeah, it was about 5 years back. We did about eight. The time I was working on it with him, we did about 8-10 schools, where we were mainly talking about the garbage, how it is caused, and yeah, a flow chart that we gave them, which they even took to their house, and they were supposed to stick on their fridge and teach their parents. We use them as a channel. It was showing the pollution, how the dry waste gets into the water and then finally gets into the sea, and also the wet waste also, and how it percolates down into the water aquifer. So they learned a lot, and yes, children are the most enthusiastic, and they are also concerned if we show them the flow, and because they see the problem, right? And then when you show the science, so actually what's bringing you to the problem, it makes so much uh, very clear to them, and they know this is the issue, that there is a way out of it. um, so yes, now finally, uh, how do we, what is the simplest way of starting this committee? Um, Perhaps we could start it informally in a Telegram group or a WhatsApp group, where and so where we can first share a draft of what are the things that we want to work towards. Of course, we already know problems, and we can start. So before that committee, we can just talk of what can the committee do, um, uh, and maybe it is these make these awareness campaigns, education campaigns, or these pamphlets or these movies that can be shown to the public through these various institutions, through educational institutions, social service organizations. And when you do this, of course, it takes time, and it takes resources and money. So definitely committee will also have to look at how to get some funding, whether when you make, I'm sure a bigger committee can make a better project report for each of these activities, and it will be more recognized by companies who want to, bring in, who have a CSR responsibility and can bring in funds. So that would also, be part of what the committee can do. So yes, any further ideas on what, how a committee of larger number of people can, what would you like, them to do? Certain things, if you just think from your own organization's perspective, certain things that are not yet happening. And if we get more people involved from a wider, range of support, what could be done more?
This is where the whole world comes to a standstill.
Yes.
Because
Yeah, maybe just making the committee, putting people in it, and them, then the ideas will come up. I am through the summit. Towards the end of the summit, we are trying to. I will be making a presentation that will get into a autoplay. Like you can make an animated presentation in PowerPoint, where I'm kind of presenting the result of the last 200 years. What has caused this shift? So I made that presentation once, twice, some parts of it, where basically I showed some pictures of the indigenous tribes in different parts of the world and their village models, whether near the coast or whether they were inside the land and they lived near a lake, or they were, just taking groundwater, because civilizations always happen where water is there. And how the indigenous people took the earth forward for the last 10,000 years. And we're making it very clear what has changed in terms of our civilization, what kind of ideas and thought, formats of capitalist, structures and these cities that we have created, how they came in between, and how this entire process, we are going downhill over the last 200 years, where we don't see another 25 years of, we don't have enough oil, we don't have this, that, and the pollution and the global warming, we don't see a future. So I will be making that, and we'll take inputs probably from everybody, all of the panelists, so that we can make it a much more comprehensive education for the people. And it's only when people get to understand that how this has happened, how they have participated, and what is being proposed as a solution, which is easy to do. It takes time, but it's baby steps and the way forward in a structured way. When that makes sense to people, I'm sure they will take it up. Because key in such a presentation is for people to understand that we are already beyond the tipping point, and that is why we are suffering so badly. So it's an emergency right now. It's not like so with an emergency right now, and with certain proposals and action plans, people should get involved or give better suggestions which are easier for them to do and be part of the solution.
yeah, I think building solutions is where the change will come in properly, because for example, this thing of the bottles of Bisleri that the vendors are selling, Kalpana is right. We are giving the tourists the garbage that they are putting into our own oceans. So we can't blame them. They're coming there. In fact,
yes,
we have done before a participative model of like it's an entertaining way to be. We did a trash for cash bar on Baga Beach, where if you collected trash and you could pay in 50 straws and get a beer for it, and then we had a collection point for all that. But one of the things we were small point but very large was that government goes ahead and bans things, but it doesn't see the reality on the ground. And I think solution based is what it is. For example, cigarette butts in the sand, big problem. Animals ingested, goes into the water. It's got not just the fact that it's garbage, it's got chemicals in it. It's very, very bad. It's actually when you ask when people came and spoke to us, said, you're asking us to collect cigarette butts, but I'm smoking on the beach and I'm asking the shack for an ashtray. They're not giving me one. I actually called the shack owner right there and I asked myself, why aren't you giving ashtrays? Because smoking is banned on the beach, so we cannot give ashtrays. Now look at that big gap there. It's still happening. They can't give officially. At the end of the day, you have open throwing of cigarette butts on the beach. So actually you need real solutions. You can't just go by banning. If we ban bottles, what are those vendors going to sell? They need to have something. We have to provide, the livelihood thing then becomes a political thing. It becomes and then
Yes.
nobody wants to participate. Then we're lost. So
Right.
actually
I would like to give a small example.
And just before that, I'll just mention a key word, the alternatives that we give for all of these, right? There should be alternatives which are eco-friendly and green, and then people will take up those. Yeah, right.
One small example for this water I would like to put in is, if you go to Joke Falls, they have the typical Joke Fall water bottles, and they have a place where they vend water. If you have a bottle, you can pay for the water, and the water is not expensive, 1 or 2 rupees. You fill up your water bottle and go ahead. So I think these type of solutions is what we should be looking at. We need not look at actually packaging or anything like that, but give them easier solutions. Carry your bottle, fill the water, take it. It's much cheaper, and I'm sure people will start adjusting to that.
Yes, and that's already from our friend Shanto in Goa. That's already been running, I think, since over 3 or 4 years now. Carry a bottle, because I remember even the Earth Keepers market that I was running was at least when it was at my place. We had agreed to be a water supply point. So people are just carrying the water, and if they're out of water, they just ask you for water. They don't ask for a bottle or something. They have their own bottle. So yes, these such campaigns need to go much wider and get more publicity. So I think yes,
It
this
should be more
committee,
viral, Daryl. It
yeah,
should be more
and
viral.
so that we understand that these ideas should go more viral, and there are 8, 10 organizations of people who are doing this. But I think when we make a larger committee of 25, 30, 50 people at this state, at this, it's a committee of people and who are implementing the solution, like all of you panelists, and so that can have a much better outreach. Uh, so I just remember this is, I think, yeah, 2016. I just have this document that we used to have environmental meets at Saraya in Sangolda. And I just pulled out one wonderful document that every time we used to have about 22, 23, 24 people. Pooja Mitra also used to come for those meets. And, Shanto and so many wonderful people who are active in Goa. And I'm just looking at this. We don't have time to go through it, but I'm putting the whole problem of garbage from the land going and also finding its way into the sea. We are having these points of origin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then points of education on pollution. So, of course, schools and this, that. So, we have about 8 points there. Then places where this education on pollution can be given, and the one municipality is one of it. Movie halls, public parks. So, and that is about 13 on the list, and legal actions. So finally, legal actions at those places where it's difficult to bring transformation and change into the people easily. And there were about 6 legal actions, and then actions on dealing with pollution and garbage once it's there. So yesterday we worked so much on the drive. We said we got to mitigate the generation of waste. That's the biggest, that's most important program. Then after that, the next comes, once it's there, how do you do it? Recycling, upcycling, downcycling, jumble sale, um, yeah, all of that. So I'm sure, when we form these committees, we will bring back all of these ideas and brainstorming and kind of work in a very structured way. So what I propose is that probably like the other committees also, we can start by making a Telegram or a WhatsApp group, and have each person from a different organization come in there. And I also, if there is, we have a website called Earth Keepers Connect, and in that I have the Earth Keeper groups from different cities. And in that, the one for Goa also, which we also had started a mobile application last year. And then because of COVID, it went a little, dipped because there were physical activity and all was less, because all our news feed was coming from all the centers that were active in doing things. So we will revive that again. And I think under that page, we can have sub pages where we will have, so besides the WhatsApp group, we can also have a page where people from the committee and their backgrounds and the work that they have done. And over there, put up, mission, vision, plans. And that's something that can be edited, with anybody making a comment from it, a good comment can come into the plan as well. So yeah, we can start like that uh, with forming this committee, and basically yes, for interaction with the people also. So it should be we should share this information once it's done, because the main thing is that the people have to know that there is such a committee with so many organizations participating. Here's the mission vision, here are the steps, and here is the plan, so people can also participate. Yeah. So I will be in.
This would be a good beginning.
Yes, yes. So I will have all of you in it, and then it'll be by invite. So once you are in, y'all can invite those people who you think have done very good work in Goa, and you can see through their commitment and their work, and bring those people in, you know, to help with the committee. Finally. Yes, any last, ending statement, something that slipped your mind, or something additional that you want to say on the webinar today for our audiences?
I think just thank you for putting this together. I think it's a great idea to kind of form some kind of committee, because there are so many issues to deal with, and just a few NGOs or a few really active, proactive citizens is not going to make enough of a difference or the kind of change that we want to see. So I think it's really a good platform to have, particularly for youngsters in the state, and also considering that there are so many people coming from outside, moving to Goa, whether good or bad. I'm one of them as well, but it's really important to kind of understand the culture of Goa, of Goans, that a lot of Goans have to protect their home, which I think is something that a lot of people who move here from outside kind of miss the point, or if you're just visiting. So I think it's great to have a committee where one person to kind of target tourism, one person to target people who moved here, sustainable development, all of those different aspects of it. So yeah, I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yes, yes, very right, Manisha. So I have a couple of questions. One is from Ashish Mukherjee. He says, given the volume of ocean plastic littered already, is it really possible to recycle all plastic considering the inconsistent quality and volume too? Are there any pyrolysis units in south or west of India to derive fuel or energy from the recovered plastic, which may reduce the coal petroleum usage too?
I think this is a really tough problem, because when you talk about pyrolysis of plastics, that in itself gives rise to a whole set of other problems, with global warming and toxic gases being released. So ideally, point source collection for recyclable plastics would be the way to go, and reduction of single-use plastics. And it's going to take time to get there, but the only real solution I see is to phase it out entirely, because we haven't found a way to properly dispose of our plastics, unfortunately.
Yes, and if education doesn't work, then definitely some laws in place, which I'm sure committee can push. And if fines are the way to make the government also take it up and earn some money, so be it.
Yeah, and we don't also just export our plastic to another country and have them deal with it. I mean, that happens here, that happens in a lot of countries in Southeast Asia, where they're getting plastics from many countries in the West. So that's not solving a problem. You're just kind of, displacing it to another place.
In fact, now they're saying no. I think
Yeah, they've started saying.
one country, I think either Philippines or Thailand or something, just refused.
Yeah, I think it was the Philippines.
Yeah, they refused.
But that's
Yeah,
not
but-
only plastic. There is also an e-waste which is shifted like this.
And that's going to become very big
Yeah.
now that we're all moving to this
Yes.
electronic and everything,
Yes.
feeling good about it, but it's going to create a new.
So if it's any good news, what we've been designing at the New Earth Summit, and these villages, now I'm going to Delhi to collaborate with another 5 organizations on this this model for every city, state, and the country as well, and replicable in other states and other countries. So in our basic, model. The amount of plastic and all of these packaging materials and all they really come down. The other thing is that we have designed it to be a better life experience, better health, better arts and culture, and your whole life experience to be more enjoyable, and also, like I mentioned, healthy. So hopefully those are the things that people come into, and so they do it for those reasons if they do not want to do it for climate change, you know. So yeah, so
And as far as the second part of the question, that the incinerator, there is one in Goa as well at the Saligaon waste management plant. But I mean, that entire Saligaon plant is all of North Goa's waste. It generates some amount of energy from there. But the problem is that there are many that cannot be put in the incinerator. They go straight to landfills. Things like sanitary napkins, diapers, foil, that stuff cannot be burnt off. So there are still going to be big problems. And then what do you do with that? I mean, the legendary Clinton Vase of Goa in South Goa has a room full of diapers just lying there because he began to hold on to them. He didn't know what to do, and it's just sitting there. So there are many that cannot go into these incinerators as well. And so even if you have them, you still have to deal with a lot. So I think there is this triangular chain of waste management practices that's about recycle, replenish, and all of that. And I think for myself, I put on top refuse. We need to start refusing. We have to send it back up the chain. The companies that are under the least amount of pressure for creating plastic are the companies that are creating plastic. They really have no botheration as to what's happening out there. I've seen it firsthand, and they are really they are the ones who lobby with the governments to continue with being allowed to create plastic, and that's the problem, that we have to send it back. We have to put pressure there. Until that, trying us having nightmares, not having sleepless nights, coping with the plastic problem. Those guys are not the ones who are making it.
Right. Very important point there. We have a question from Loretta Rodriguez. Can salinity to water tables in coastal areas be reversed? Salinity to water tables. Yeah, so the same thing what I was talking about earlier, I guess, the seawater coming into the land. Any ideas, Kalpana, of how that can be stopped, besides the one that I said, you increase your water table of the land?
Yeah, but Daryl, even that increasing of the water table of the land, the rate at which the construction is going place, and then the rate at which the consumption is taking place, all this is not going to help you actually increase the water table. You really need to put a concerted effort towards this.
You really need to do what?
Put a concerted effort towards this.
Okay, it's considered effort. I thought some construction wall or something.
Oh, no, the construction wall is not going to be a solution.
Because water finds its way to the lowest point. So yes, I mean, our model also incorporates, certain population density, a low population density. I think that's the biggest problem on the planet, where no scientific, no ethical standard of population density is there. I mean, our Goa coast and all the congested cities of the world have crossed that. It's like people don't have intelligence at all to understand the meaning of population density, how When it becomes too dense, it's too close and it's too congested, and then you become very sick with that environment. So we have three models of the design that we are putting out. One is for a greenfield project where every house is like a villa. It's only ground floor, and it's even if it's 3-4 bedroom villa, it's 200 square meters surrounding with 500 square meters land. So well spaced out, low population density. Your gray water and white water is all circulated over there. So that is the design, and what we have shared through even the calculations that I did. This is complete fake information that's coming out in the world right now, that we're overpopulated. Even with a ground floor like this, kind of construction, for example, which we calculated that in 5 kilometers by 5 kilometers, which is 25 square kilometers, you can have this low population density, but 50,000 people in it. And so even at that calculation, this planet can take more than 10 billion people on land. That is, you're not touching the forest, you're not touching the orchards, you're looking at, more or less settlement land. And even the orchards, that 5% FSI, this is implementable within that. So the thing is, yeah, how to that design, which is a very so you have more land, and if people are going to follow all our water harvesting and water conservation techniques, yes, we do see that water table can come up. But again, I would definitely have to agree that all of our committees, so far there are about 12 committees. Yeah, we all have to work in an integrated way. And once this model is seen as the future, what I shared earlier, that this model has got a lifespan of 2,500 years. So I keep saying that so that it hits people, that how can there be a model, that is 2,500 years, when all our, great technologists cannot move beyond 25 years here. So I keep saying this so people look into it and, get surprised, and, will start working towards it. So we've come to the end of today's wonderful discussion. And a big thank you to all our panelists, Divya, Manisha, Kalpana. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing all of your views and solutions. Thanks to audience as well for hanging in there. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the same time on the same link for our day 25 topic, which is repairing damages in Earth's biosphere. Now, to translate that to you, I will just say that the Earth's biosphere, around the Earth, the environment, what we're doing to it, and especially now with the onslaught of 5G, we're going to talk about that, what damage it is doing to the entire planet. The permanent delta change of a very harsh field that's permanent. It evokes a response also that is permanent, in which a lot of people are getting damaged. A lot of the living species on this planet are slowly going to bear the brunt of that damage. So it's a very important topic tomorrow. I would like all of you to be there and also invite others. The same link that you used to join today, I just share that with them. Or go to our website, thenewearthsummit.com, and you will see the rest also. Thank you once again. Good evening.
Thanks, Daryl, for giving us this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. You're welcome. Bye, and I will connect with you all again in the committee.